I'll just switch on my recording. Yeah. So this is session 10 and it's on email marketing. I guess the subject matter was not of much interest to a lot of people, which is why we seem to have very less people online today. I think we've only got about 6 odd people other than the usual 30 odd people who are there. Okay, great, Amit, that you're back online. And but I think those who are going to miss this session are actually at the big loss out here, because amongst all the digital marketing techniques and tactics or strategies that you may talk of, email marketing is, to my mind and to anybody who's in the digital marketing space, is perhaps the most widely abused as well as the most widely unused technique. And for those who have learned how to use it the right way, it is perhaps gets much better ROI than what any other digital marketing technique can give you, whether it is Google AdWords, whether it's Facebook marketing, whether it's SEO, whatever you name it. Email marketing by far is the most productive and the most efficient digital marketing technique that one can adopt for the business growth. And that's what we will look at today: how to use digital marketing and what are the aspects of digital marketing that we need to look after. So things like factors on how to do a good effective email marketing, what are the tools that one can use, what are the best practices that one should need to follow. And like I mentioned, it's perhaps the most abused form of marketing which is there. And so a lot of people equate email marketing to spam, and all of us are victims of spam. It is a tool which is used extensively for spamming, and so a lot of abuses which take place. But like I mentioned again, those who use it efficiently and diligently, there is no better tool than this. And so that's what we will look and cover in this today's session. So before I get into the actual session, I just want to share some data with all of y'all, which is in terms of why I believe, or why most people who are marketers believe that email marketing is perhaps the best tool that is there. The figures go every year. Currently, there are about 205 billion emails which are sent out every day. So that shows to the extent to which people are using email. Primarily, the reasons are not very difficult to find. It's very cheap to send out an email, and the responses or the ROI, I won't say responses, but the ROI that you get, considering the cost that is involved in sending out an email, the ROI is absolutely stupendous. And therefore, a lot of people tend to use emails, and this thing is continuously growing every time. In terms of return on investment, there's a statistic which says that on email, on an average, $1 for every $1 spent, you get about a $38 return on investment. So that's about 38 times you're looking at a return on investment. No other medium gives you that kind of return on investment as email does. But it will give you only that kind of returns only if you approach it from the right manner in which it is to be approached. If you think that you're going to collect a lot of database and spam your people, you are not going to get any responses, and that's a guarantee, or you'll get extremely poor responses. But if you use it effectively, it can generate a lot of ROI. There's another strategy which says that when you compare it to Facebook, people are 2x as likely to sign up for your email as and interact with you as opposed to Facebook. So people even today tend to interact and tend to respond far better on email than they will ever respond to you on Facebook. That's primarily because on Facebook, you are a nameless entity with whom they're interacting. But on email, they are interacting with you on a one-on-one basis, and therefore the responses and therefore the signups and therefore the interactions on emails are likely to be far better than any kind of interaction that you would get on Facebook. Moving on, if you look at in terms of conversion rates, the email conversion rates that you get on email is higher than social and search. So if you're looking at SEO as a tactic to adopt, or you're looking at social media marketing as a tactic to adopt, if you simply look at email as a consistent, regular approach that you will do for your marketing, it is likely to give you far higher conversion rates as opposed to when you use both social and search combined together. In terms of transaction rate, when you personalize an email, and that's one of the things which very few people actually do. When you start personalizing your emails, you get a 6x higher transaction rates. That is, you have much higher chances of somebody opening it, somebody reading it, and actually somebody responding to it. And that's one of the things that you'll find, that most of the emails that you get are not personalized to you. So when you start personalizing emails to individuals, that's when you start getting, it's one of the best practices to follow in email marketing. And that's when you start getting better returns on investment. So if you're going to do email marketing, one of the fundamental rules that you need to apply is the rule of personalization of email. Remember, digital marketing is all about marketing on a one-on-one basis. So you have one communication for one person and a different communication with different person. And with automation, which is available, the kind of automation that is available today, you can actually customize your messaging, you customize your communication to deliver one-on-one personalized messages. And that's where email marketing scores tremendously over search engine optimization, over Google AdWords, over social media marketing, and any other form of digital marketing. It scores heavily against. Also, one of the reasons why email marketing is growing so rapidly is because today all of us, most of us, use our smartphones to access our email 24/7. So literally 24/7, we are on our emails, checking emails, responding to emails, replying to emails. And so the best form of way to communicate and reach a person and actually talk to him is today by email. So I might not be on my Facebook all through the day. I might not be searching on Google through the day. So if you're trying to reach me through SEO, you're trying to reach me through social media advertising, you may or may not reach me. But with email, your chances of reaching me are near 100% because I access my email through my mobile device. And therefore, the chances of you reaching me, interacting with me, communicating with me, engaging with me is much higher. So in a nutshell, if you want to grow your business, you need to invest in email marketing, and that's the key word. It's an investment that you would need to make. Unlike any other form of marketing, there is no short run approach to email marketing. It is long term, it is medium term. I won't say long term, it is medium term investment that you need to make, because when you start making the investment in email marketing, that's when you'll start getting to see the results of email marketing. So before I get into things, I want to show you some of the emails that what I think are not good practices. Now here's an email that I got a few months ago. Now this was an email which came to me on the dark completely. Number one, it spelled my name wrong. So it was hi, and it instead of Menon, it says Menank. So that pissed me off first of all. And then if you look at the content of the mail, it actually came from a company which sells ERP and CRM software solutions for mid-market segment. And they go on to saying that we have created a platform for development of business critical solutions that are meaningful, dependable, and versatile. And then they go on to say that I just want to check if there's anything that we can be of help in any of the services offered to you. By and large, most of the emails that I see coming to me from people who do digital marketing or any form of email marketing are typically emails like this. Do they get responses? The chances are absolutely near zero. This is not email marketing, period. So if you are sending emails like this, you will not get much responses, because these are what I would term as near spam emails, taken out from a rented database and mailed in bulk to a lot of people. The way spam email works is that when you're sending out 100,000 people, the law of averages will work in some way that out of the 100,000 email sending, there may be some people who may be interested in your product, and the chances of the probability, it works on a probability scale. There's a probability of finding the right person who needs your product at the right time. That is the probability that you're actually going to get in terms of responses. So the probability is going to be very low, and therefore your responses are going to be extremely low considering the amount of money that you're going to be spending, and versus still the kind of reputation that your domain name is going to carry, because your domain name can get blacklisted when you start doing regular spamming. Another kind of a bad example I want to show you, and this is from a reputed large company. As you can see, it's 99 acres. So bad email marketing is not just restricted to small startups or people who do not know marketing. I am sure 99acres.com has a fairly good marketing team at work, and they would probably have a great big digital marketing agency working for them. But look at the mails that they send to me. In a day, they send me 3 bloody mails. Do you really think that I am not going to keep subscribing to them? Certainly not. I am certainly going to unsubscribe to them. So there's a mail which comes to me in the morning 10:58, another mail which comes to me at 2:53, then another mail which comes to me in the evening at 5 o'clock. It is like they have automated and said that I will keep hitting on my prospect day in and day out and hope that the prospect will buy or rent something over my property. Like hell, I will ever do anything with 99 acres. So this is not email marketing spamming me 3 times a day. And a lot of people, big companies, small companies, all of them do it, and the responses are simply bad. Another bad example. Again, this is from another large company. Now, this is how I get to see the email which lands up in my email box. As you can see, my email filter filters out all emails. I use Outlook. I work in office 10 hours a day. I use Outlook. Outlook blocks all images as a part of the spam filter, as the email filter. So the mail that comes to me looks exactly like this with a lot of hyperlinks, looks like jumbled junk. Do you really think that I am going to respond to this, or I'm going to take the trouble of downloading images or downloading the pictures? Certainly not. So that's another fundamental fallacy that most digital marketing agencies make, as well as the clients make, of sending HTML emailers to their prospects. Now, when the reason is not too far to see why this is done, it's actually a very, very commercially driven reason. Clients tend to, or let's say clients who have hired an agency, tend to react better with visuals. So when an agency shows them a nice looking design of an emailer, the client simply loves it, and the client says, let's go ahead and send this out. And the agency sends it out to 100,000 people or to the subscriber database. But what happens is that a lot of email clients like Outlook and I've heard that today even Gmail has started this, simply block the images. And actually the recipient gets to see the email in this manner. Agencies don't care or don't bother or hide the fact from the client simply because you cannot charge the client the same amount of money you're charging to do a text emailer versus an HTML emailer. So an HTML emailer, you can charge the client good money in terms of creative, in terms of layout, in terms of trying to make it responsive and all these things. But a text emailer, client will pay probably a pittance for creating a text emailer. So agencies don't push clients to do text emailers, and clients also love to see great looking designs, so they also don't buy text emailers. The result is that the email marketing campaign rarely works in the favor of the product or the domain or the business that the client is actually trying to push. So these are 3 bad practices that you keep seeing again and again and again. The first is obviously pretty shoddy written text and communication with no clear call to action, targeting the wrong prospect with the wrong name. It is not going to work. Second is spamming and over spamming somebody 3 times a day is, to my mind, just calling to get your domain blacklisted? Absolutely. So I could probably report 99 acres. In fact, I did do that. I reported it to my report to the ISP saying that I'm being spammed by 99 acres. So if 100 of us do the same thing, 99 acres is going to get blacklisted, and they'll find it increasingly difficult to do any form of email marketing. The third is not at all bothering about should I be sending an HTML mailer, or even in terms of testing out how your emailer is going to be viewed on different email clients. So remember, every email client shows the email or HTML design differently. So if I'm using Outlook, or I'm using Outlook Express, or whether I'm using Lotus, or whether using Yahoo, whether using Gmail, it'll all appear a little bit different because of the settings of each email client. And rarely do agencies tend to test this out before sending it out. And here I'm largely talking about Indian clients and Indian agencies. Internationally, it is an accepted practice by all agencies to actually do a great degree of email browser testing before an email is actually sent out, so that they're very clear that how will my email look in different email client browsers. It's no different than testing your website across different web browsers, whether it's Safari, whether it is Chrome, whether it is Internet Explorer. You want to see how your website is going to look across different devices and across different browsers. In a similar manner, a good email marketing campaign good email marketing agency would typically should be testing out across different email client browsers, so that he can know how is the recipient going to look and see his email when it's actually received. And unfortunately and sadly, very few agencies in India do this, and even lesser clients tend to ask the agencies to do this because obviously it costs money to do this. So given this background, let's look at what are the important email components which are there and which one should bear in mind. At this stage, I'll just pause and ask if anybody has any questions relating to the email marketing so far. Please do ask me now. So any questions, or shall we carry on? I think there are no questions. So let's carry on. I'm sure questions will keep coming. So feel free to keep asking as we keep going along. So let's move ahead. So let's look at what is the first component of email marketing that you need to look at if you are looking at email marketing seriously. And I would strongly advise all of y'all who are in the startup business, right now is the best time for you to start initiating your email marketing in a scientific, logical manner. And the logic starts from actually building a database. So there are two kinds of databases that you need to start looking at. One is, of course, your permission-based database, where you need to create a plan to continuously convert your traffic onto your site into email subscribers. And there are a lot of ways by which you can do it. We'll talk about some of the ways little down the line, but this is your best database that you can ever hope to get. And if you haven't started as yet trying to convert your website traffic into email subscribers, now is the time to start doing this, because with permission based marketing, your responses actually start going through the roof, because of the simple reason that these are people who have already had one interaction with you. They already know what kind of business you are doing, and by virtue of giving you their email IDs and their contact details, they're actually allowing you the chance to interact and convince them about your product and about a service. So that's what you need to look at and start initiating this permission-based marketing. That's a question which has come from Bhushan. Have been refrained from email marketing so far for all the very observations that you have made. look forward to good solution and the way out from it. Okay, great, Bhushan. I hope you will find this useful, and to do keep me updated as to how you find it and how you're going to go about implementing this. The second, and that's the most commonly used of email marketing here in India, is non-permission based marketing, where people simply rent out a database or they simply extract databases from email prospects and then they start spamming them. So they send out one email and then they wait for responses, which hardly comes. Then they send out another email and then send out another email and they send out another email until they start getting unsubscribed to the people. The results will obviously be very, very poorer. So my suggestion to all the startups out here is focus on building database of prospects, and where necessary, you supplement it with third-party rented databases. But don't focus your efforts of your email marketing purely on rented databases. Building a permission-based database marketing, email marketing, or whatever you call it, is a slow process. But if you start now, over a period of time, it will build up. And that is what you need to focus on. Internationally, every company worth its salt focuses on permission-based email marketing because they have gone through the learning curve to know that non-permission based marketing simply does not give the kind of ROIs that permission-based email marketing does. So that is as a result of which a lot of people focus on permission-based marketing and then supplement it and probably once in a while with third-party rented databases. So my suggestion to everybody is start looking at ways and means of converting your website traffic into email subscribers. So that's the first part of the entire component. So when you start building your prospect databases, Vidula asked a question, what is third-party database? Meaning buying a database or like a database from Chamber of Commerce which is available for free? Vidula, your answer to both these questions are yes. Third-party database is either where you buy a database from a Chamber of Commerce, for instance, because they're subscribers, or you buy it from somebody who sells databases or who rents databases. There are a lot of database rental companies in India whose sole job is to rent out databases to you. They can even sell you the databases. For instance, I come from Delhi. So if I go to Delhi, there's a place called Nehru Place in Delhi. So the people from here in Delhi who are familiar will know that Nehru Place is the equivalent of Mumbai's Lamington Road, which is an IT market. So there, if I go, I can pick up a CD of, let's say, 1 million records or a 10 million email subscriber database, or 20 million email subscriber database for as low as 2,000 rupees or 3,000 rupees. It's available by literally by the kiloweight of millions for a very low price. So that's what is third-party databases. And a lot of them gets fed into sending out spam mails to everybody, to the whole universe, literally. So today also in India, there are a lot of companies who sell databases, who rent databases across various segments. But your responses are going to be poor. So you need to bear that in mind. So when you're doing email marketing, there are essentially 3 costs that come into play. One is the cost of acquiring the database. Second is the cost of sending out that database. So when you are buying it very cheap, you have to remember that the cost of broadcasting is something that is going to be a large cost, because if you buy 1 million databases at, let's say, 2,000 rupees, for sending out 1 million databases, you're going to spend a fair amount of money. So if you do not get the kind of responses and the kind of ROIs, it will be a wasteful exercise. And that's what most people tend to find out. Second problem which a lot of companies that I've interacted with face is that they operate with very small database sites. So they have a database of 1,000 people and they send out an email and they say nobody responded. Email marketing, like any form of marketing, works on numbers. So if you don't have a sizable database, please don't expect any returns on investment, or please don't expect much of responses happening. Database marketing works on large numbers. So when you try to build your prospect databases, the kind of prospect databases that you could look at is number one, your website registration data. So if your website has a registration field, that is the first database that you need to look at. You could also convert your website traffic through the lead capture devices like I'm showing right at the left, which is a lead capture device, which when you go to Kissmetrics. Now Kissmetrics, if people are unfamiliar, is a very, very popular site for social media. And so when you go to the site and you browse, depending on where you're browsing, you get to see suddenly a pop-up when you're exiting, which gives you this particular solution, which says, get a free guide to customer engagement automation. And you learn how to take advantage of CA to help your business grow. And they ask your name and email ID. When you enter it, you get a downloadable link where you can read up more content which is relevant to you. So depending on where a user is browsing on a particular site, you could have lead capture devices like these to actually give something of value to your customers and get and extract an email ID or a name from him. So that's what is called as a lead capture device. In our next session, which is on website conversion, we're going to talk a lot more on lead capture devices and see how that can be used. But for the time being, just remember, you need to look and explore at ways by which you can convert your traffic coming to your site into people, into giving up their names and email IDs. Your customer sales data is another important source of prospect database, and obviously the prospect sales contact data with whom you're already in correspondence. So that's your entire gamut of permission-based marketing databases which you need to put together and for proper use in email marketing. So once you have got your database in place, the very critical thing is to invest in an email campaign management software. And there are lots of them available. MailChimp is obviously one of the more favorite more favorite email campaign management softwares which are there. It operates on a freemium model, which I think up to 12,000 email you can send out in a month free of cost, or 2,000 databases. So depending on the size of your company, you could look at a freemium free software. Zoho is another one, Constant Contact. I, for instance, use Netcore, which is a hardcore Indian email campaign management software. It doesn't have the frills and the fancies that a MailChimp or a Zoho has, but it serves my purpose completely adequately and perfectly. It is quite cheap and reasonable for me. So the cost for me to send out one email, so I have taken the subscription for 1 million broadcasts I have taken, and it costs me roughly about 22,000 rupees for a million. So which means I'm spending less than 2 paisa to send out one email to a prospect if I want to. So that's all that is costing me, 2 paisa. And Netcore is pretty cheap for me. So I use Netcore, but it obviously doesn't have the frills and the fancies that a MailChimp or a Zoho has. MailChimp and Zoho obviously are far more better pieces of software, but at the same time, they are more expensive to use. So I have traded off the ease and some of the functionalities with using Netcore's software. So one of the advantages of using an email campaign management software is that you can integrate it with your website and set up some terrific autoresponders that can boost your conversion. Now, autoresponders is one of the hidden secrets of email marketing. Now, the big challenge, one of the biggest challenge which people face in email marketing is actually understanding what should I do emailing. So they first collect a database and then they decide what is to be done. Or I've noticed there are a lot of sites which are there. When somebody registers, all that they do is send me a thank you mail saying thank you for registering and please do this XYZ, and that's it. After that, there is no other correspondence which comes from the website, except once in a while they send me an email which is possibly unplanned email marketing which is done. But an autoresponder can be used very effectively to start pinging the prospect the minute he registers. So right from sending out his first thank you mail to having a series of communication planned out to be sent out to the prospect based on a what if tree. So if the prospect does this, send out this email. If the prospect does that, send out this email. So you actually create a tree and then you plug that all into your email campaign management software and you automate it from the very beginning. So as a CEO founder, you don't have to think every time what email should I be sending out to the prospect. You have mapped out the communication strategy, you have mapped out the communication calendar and actually put it into the system to trigger off an email depending on what the customer or what the prospect has done based on your email. So an email campaign management software is actually something everybody should actually invest in. It's a real investment to be done, and I would strongly recommend that everybody integrates one of them into their website. And as I spoke about in the beginning when I was talking about email, when I was talking about Facebook marketing, if you're running Facebook marketing lead generation programs, these are the software which you can also integrate with Facebook. So the leads that you're generating from Facebook automatically flow into your email campaign management software for you to trigger off emails to them based on your autoresponder rules. The next thing, once you have set up your email campaign management software, is obviously deciding on the communication or communication plan. And we'll just wait for this page to load. It is still not loaded on my end of the thing, but it seems to have loaded in other people's system. Yes, here it is. So we need to develop a content communication plan. And if you look at the left hand side, a communication plan essentially details out what are you going to communicate, whom will you communicate to what. Remember, in email marketing, it's not one size fits all. You have to look at different segments of your database and decide who will receive what kind of communication, and also when will this communication be sent out to the person and received by the person. For instance, anybody or any of y'all who are running a SaaS based subscription based model, there is a set pattern in which email autoresponders are sent out to people who have taken up a trial package. So a trial package typically goes on for 30 days. So in a 30-day period, there is a scientific process that is there, established, proven, statistically proven, that you need to send out an email on day 1, day 3, day 5, day 7, day 11, 14, 21, 27, 30. So that's 9 emails in a span of 1 month. And it has statistically been shown that these 9 emails will actually improve your trial to actually purchase conversion levels in somebody who's running a SaaS subscription based model. And so these 9 communication, you need to plan it out well in advance and automate it. So that is one communication that you're sending out to people who have taken up your trial package on your SaaS product. So that's one of the things. So similarly, you need to plan out your different communication calendars and slot them into your email campaign management software so that it automates the business rules and sends it out to the person on a set frequency periodically without you having to worry about that we need to send out an emailer on day after tomorrow and then rush with the agency to figure out how to create an emailer and send out an emailer. So you need to create a communication calendar, create content based on the user segment, whether it's a first-time visitor, whether it's a regular visitor, customer, prospect, trial user, whatever it is. So you need to segment this database and create communication for the person that you're communicating to. And of course, automate this with an email campaign management software. The last part of this is in terms of, like I already spoke about, is to segment and analyze your data. You need to segment your email list into subgroups. So we talked about some of the subgroups which could be there. And you remember that one size communication doesn't fit all. Okay. Vidula asked, how can I find out if he is a first time visitor or a regular visitor? You can't find out from a person that whether he's a first time visitor or regular visitor unless you put cookies into his use cookies. But what I meant in terms of first time and second and regular is that if somebody has interacted, and you can track this through your email, that if he has been interacting with you on a regular basis, let's say two people came to your site on day one and both of them gave you your email, both of them gave you your email ID, and you sent out an email to both of them asking them to do one specific thing. And let's say one of the people did that, the first guy ignored it. You then send out another email asking them to do something else. And the second guy did the second part again. And the first guy still ignored it. So now you have data points of 2 data points to tell you who is the person who's regularly interacting with you and who's not regularly interacting with you. So your communication now needs to change depending on who's a regular visitor to your website versus who is an irregular visitor to your website. Because you cannot have the same communication going out to both these people. So that's how you need to look at it from a marketing perspective by analyzing your data and analyzing your responses. I hope that's clear, Vidula. Okay, Amit has asked a question. Have been using MailChimp, but I'm not getting a good conversion, though I'm following the permission-based model to get the users subscribed. Amit, what do you mean by good conversion? Because what is the expectation of a good conversion? What is the kind of open rates you're getting? So a good conversion is a function of how good your content is, how valuable your content is, and what are you communicating to the person in terms of you asking him to do something. So you need to look at those aspects. I'm glad you're using permission-based stuff, but it's not just by segmenting or by doing permission based you're going to get good conversion. Your content and the communication plan also has to be equally good, which is why I mentioned that it starts with having good databases. The second part is you need to have a good email campaign management software. Third is you need to have a good communication plan and a calendar of communication plan, which is segmented by the user that you're targeting to. And fourth important thing is that you need to segment your data and analyze that data. MailChimp shows you the option. Okay, the Cyan has said this. Okay, so you can segment them by various parameters depending on your business. These are some of the stuff. People who are active, customers or prospects, blog readers, newsletter subscribers, people who have previously taken up an offer, website registrants, shopping cart abandoners, and there are so many ways, different ways by which you can classify and sub-classify your email database. And you can actually use the email campaign management software to create different communications for each segment. So remember, email marketing is a lot to do with using data and using database, doing database marketing. So it's actually looking at the data not as a singular holistic that I have got a 10,000 database, but saying that I have a database of 10,000 which is broken up into 20 subgroups of 500 people each and actually making 20 different communication calendars. That's how email marketing is supposed to be done. And that's how you get best responses. Right? So, and going forward, you need to analyze your email campaign to see how people have reacted. What kind of open rates for each subgroup? What are the kind of click-through rates? What did they click in your email? Unsubscribes. And over a period of time, you need to look at who are the people who are active on your click-through rates. So if you have, like I mentioned to Vidula, if you have got 100 people who are actively engaging with you, you need to reclassify them and put them into a segment saying that these are my active, regular consumers of content, because you can then leverage that knowledge that you have, that insight you have of them, that they are regular users of your website or of your content or whatever it is that you do, and actually leverage it as opposed to people who are not reacting to you. So you can do different kind of communication, different kind of marketing to each set of people. Amit has a question: how authentic are these databases? Which databases, Amit? Which databases are you talking about? Bhushan also asked the question, would also like to know how to get authentic database. First, let me understand what is Amit's definition of how authentic are these databases. Which databases is he referring to? So I'm waiting for you to reply, Amit, before I move on, because the next part is really talking about more operational aspect. Oh, the one that you get the database from NehruPlace. Oh, that's absolutely authentic. I would say almost a clear authenticity of almost about 80%, because they all robbed and stolen databases. So today I have, in fact, with me right now, I have a 10 million database, 10 million, right? Out of which I have a million database of people who are subscribers, active subscribers to one of the largest online trading company, and who buy stocks and shares. I have a database of people who have flown Jet Airways. They're all stolen databases, and then they're hogged at NehruPlace. So authenticity is fairly good. Obviously, people change email IDs, so you'll have a degree of bad databases in it. But roughly for the price that you pay, which is about 2,000 to 3,000 rupees, getting at 10 million databases is absolutely near zero. So that's what I would say. But remember, if I have to send out a 10 million databases at 2 paisa even, that's a lot of money I'm talking about. How much is that? A million databases would be about 2 lakh rupees I'm spending for sending out a million. And for 10 million, I'll be needing to spend, I need to have about 20 lakhs to send out. I don't have that kind of money to send out. So actually the database is pretty useless to me. So if you have the wherewithal and the bandwidth and the funds to spend 20 lakhs, the problem, Bhushan, is that you will not be able to sort that database on any particular filter. So it just has name, email IDs, some with phone numbers, some with addresses. Essentially, some fields are there from which people have stolen, robbed, slyly taken away from various companies. India, the data security, as you know, is absolutely the worst anywhere in the world. It's very easy to steal databases. I'm sure if I try hard enough, I'll probably be able to get Flipkart customers and Snapdeal customer databases. If I try hard enough in NehruPlace, I'm sure there will be somebody who will slyly walk up to me and say, do you want Snapdeal's customer database? And I'm reasonably sure that a lot of them would be genuine. Yes, I would say you need to build your own, supplement it once in a while with rented databases, and I would not recommend you to go and buy this bulk. They are what is called as bulk email lists, which is 1 million plus, 5 million plus list. So for instance, I was working with a particular client, and the client wanted to reach out to people who have sat for IIT. And would you believe it? I can today access how much? There are last year 12 million. I think it is about 12 million. Yes, 12 million or 12 lakhs. 12 lakhs students sat for IIT. There is a company which sells out of that 11 lakh databases of people who have sat for IIT joint entrance exam. That's available. It is supposed to be something which is secret, right? but it is available, freely available. I can get access, lay my hands on that, and at a very cheap price. So if you look for database in India, you'll find them aplenty. How genuine they are, I would say they would be fairly genuine. How useful they are is a moot question. It's a moot point. I don't know. I rarely use. I have used some of them in the past. The responses have been pretty bad, and worst part, you will get blacklisted. That is guaranteed. But don't you think that using database totally ones are unethical and makes the customer to think that the sender is a spammer? The customer doesn't know whether you have stolen it, you have bought it, you have rented it. So if I send out an email to a class 12 student who's appeared in JEE last year, I'm not going to tell him in the email, hey, I got your email ID from Nehru Place and I know you sat for JEE and therefore I'm writing to you. I'm not going to tell him that. Nor are anybody going to tell him that. I'm going to tell him about my business and what I'm trying to sell to him. So customer really doesn't know that his email has been stolen or spammed. So I mean, it's like that today. You might have, all of y'all might have read that Yahoo's email ID was Yahoo was compromised a couple of months ago, and I think about close to 120 or some millions and millions of Yahoo email IDs were stolen. I'm sure they will find it back into the market in a couple of months, or already will be available in the market of email IDs of Yahoo. So people hack into systems, people steal from other people to sell email IDs because clients want them. It's as simple as that. It's a market supply, clearly driven by market supply forces. Somebody wants them, somebody will supply them. Whether it's ethical or unethical is left to the buyer and the seller to decide. But it happens. It's the reality of marketing. So I hope I address this. Is there any other question? Amit has said, I usually send emails to the contacts that I have from LinkedIn. That's a good idea. And let me just go. Is there any? Okay, now that's it. So let's move on. Okay. Science is, yeah, even Zomato's database account was also hacked. Yeah, a lot of companies' accounts do get hacked because security in India is pretty lousy and pretty easy to hack into, actually speaking. So now let's look at some of the good aspects or key aspects of good email practices. So that's the core of what we're doing. So we talked about the components, which is database, email campaign management software, and then we talked about the need for communication calendar, and we talked about one more aspect, which was in terms of database, in terms of campaign management software, and segmenting and analyzing your database. And now we're looking at aspects of good email practice. And the first aspect that we need to look at is obviously in terms of personalization. So personalizing your mail to the sender can increase your response rate significantly. I'm talking response rate. The first response rate that you need to try to increase when you're doing email marketing is what is called as an open rate. Is the number of people who will open your mail to read it. Because if it doesn't open it, your email is anyway dead. And one of the ways by which you can get a person to open that email is to personalize an email. So two aspects of personalization that you could look at is personalize the to. So instead of writing dear sir, you write it as dear so and so. So dear Rajesh or dear Menon. So to make it more personalized, you can even personalize the subject line. So you can have, dear Rajesh, I thought you might like this blog in the subject line itself. Now, if you received a mail saying, dear Bhushan, I thought you might like this blog, the chances of you opening that mail to read it because it's personalized in your name is 100 times more likely than somebody saying, I thought you might like this blog. You'll say, okay, ठीक है, मैं बाद में देख लूंगा. But when it's personalized to you, the chances of you opening that mail is much, much higher. So that's the first level of personalization you do on the subject line as well as in the to. So this is where when you start building your own database, you have that freedom to actually understand your prospect's name properly and the way it is spelled. Second is you need to keep your email conversation tone personal and friendly. So if you look at good email practices, don't need to look too far. Look at international firms, international website companies with whom you all have registered. You will see the tonality is absolutely friendly. It's very warm. It's usually from somebody senior in the company, and it is always a personal email marked to you personally. You'll notice the difference between international. When you subscribe to any international website, you will find it very, very warm and very, very friendly and very, very personalized. The second way of personalization, or second thing that you need to personalize, is in the body text itself. So include the person's name in the body text. So when you talk about the communication or the content, include his name in it. Is it possible to send personalized email through MailChimp campaigns? Yes, it is possible to personalize names, but is it possible to personalize other info like blogs, read? Yes, everything can be personalized. Everything can be personalized. I have not used MailChimp, but I don't think if my campaign management software is Netcore. If Netcore can provide this, I'm 110% that MailChimp is definitely better than Netcore and would definitely have it. Okay, so in Netcore, I can personalize the subject line by putting in the person's name. The body copy, I can include personalization, the blog, the site, company name. Anything that I want to personalize, I can personalize it. So and Netcore is not a advanced piece of email campaign management software. It's fairly basic and functional, great for Indian audience, great for being cheap. So you can insert personalization, body text, person's name. You can write the company's name and anything that he has bought, read, used before from you. So that's the first level of ensuring that your email actually starts performing. So these are all performing ways but you can make your email perform better than what it used to do before. The next important thing is obviously in terms of subject line. The right subject line can improve your open rates. I have given you two tools where you can test out your subject line. So one is www.subjectline.com and the other one is https://coschedule.com/headline analyzer. So both these tools can be used for you to analyze your headline in terms of openability. So they will analyze the headline to see what's the kind of words that you've used and whether those kinds of words are likely to impact your open rates or reduce your open rates. So these are two good tools which I have seen and you can use. Amit has asked a question, is it possible to conduct a session on mail campaign managers, MailChimp, etc.? See, Amit, it is possible to do that, but a lot of people use various kinds of campaign management systems. Somebody might use an Adobe system, somebody might use a MailChimp, I use a Netcore, somebody else might use Contact, third person might be using Zoho. Each of them, the tool, while functionality wise, most of them will do the same thing, but the tool would be different. So it's very difficult to actually conduct a particular tool session like that. So one of the things that you need to bear in mind in subject lines is to avoid starting a mail with words like free win. Remember, all email client servers have spam filters which are based on keywords. So they look for keywords in the subject line to decide whether this is a spam mail, promotional mail or what. So if you look at Gmail has a spam filter, which is why it filters a lot of your mail into social and into promotional. And then you have a main primary mail. So if you're not careful, it'll land up in a promotional folder. And by chance, if it lands up, there's no chance in hell of the user ever clicking on the promotional tab to read the promotional emails. I'm sure all of y'all use Gmail, and I'm sure all of y'all rarely visit your promotional folder to look at the promotional emails or the social folder. Right? So how do the emails land up in the promotional folder? It's not that the sender has said that this is a promotional emailer. The sender has sent out an email, Gmail spam filters looked at the subject line, looked at the content and said, hey, I think this is a promotional mail. Let me put it in the promotional folder. I don't think, Sayan, you can send links on the platform. It says somewhere here at the bottom that links are prohibited. Right. But anyway, the presentation will be available to them. So some good subject lines invoke one of the following: self-interest, and I'll show you some examples of what each of them are. So anything that promotes self-interest, something that will benefit you, would be of interest to you. Curiosity is a great way to get a person to send out an email. So you might be getting a lot of emails saying that starting with the word RE apostrophe, which actually means that when you send a reply, automatically all messages start with the RE. So that's a trick which email marketers use to make you feel that you have probably missed out an important mail. So they send a mail saying that RE, did you miss out my earlier mail? So that's a curiosity way by which you can get a person to open his email, because you'll assume that there is some mail which has come in your email box sometime back. You miss reading it. It's an important mail. So let me open this and see what it is. Offer mails, urgency, scarcity mails, headlines which tell you that this is urgent, last 2 days, last 1 day, immediate closing, are all kinds of triggers that make us feel nervous about losing out on something. Email subject lines which draw upon our humanity work very well, which is very similar to the kind of emotional posts that you get on Facebook. News-led emails work great. Emails with subject line which give you a proof also work very great. Email lines which tell you about a story also work very great. So these are great subject lines, and let's look at some examples that I've pulled out from various places which talk about this. So here is one: I'm in this new book. So your curiosity gets evoked to understand what this is. Google compliant landing page checklist download. So if you are in the business of marketing, this is something that you would like to have. 28 ways to increase organic social traffic. Siju says, hi Rajesh, could you elaborate how to get out of the promotion folder, especially when you have email sent from tools like MailChimp? Okay, Siju, two things some of it I've already covered, some of it I will be covering. Number one, stop using emails primarily, first of all, number one. Number two, be careful of what you use as a headline and a body copy. Google reads your mail looks at keywords to determine whether it is promotional or whether it is a non-promotional mail. Okay, so here we go. Some of the stuff, brand new certification released today. Again, curiosity. Six skills, sounds like a tongue twister, will pay the bills. Self-interest. Did you get your book yet? Curiosity. She sold 122 subscription for $97 each. Here's how she did it. It's a story, again, of interest. What do Google, YouTube, Amazon and Pinterest have in common? Again, curiosity. The complete guide to Google Tag Manager, part 2. Self-interest, self-promotion, which will help you improve your business, improve your learning. So if you look at it, all these headlines actually make somebody want to open the email and see what's the content of it. And that's the first starting point of trying to ensure that you have a good open rate. A good open rate will automatically lead to a good click-through rate. So if your open rate is high, your click-through rate will also be good. If your open rate is small, your responses are going to be low. Moving on, while you look at some good headlines, here are some words which are known to be spam based, or which email filters will treat as spam. So things like act now, affordable, apply now, beneficiary, bonus. Amit Kotare says, does that mean we should not use images at all for email campaign? Amit, I'm going to take up this point absolutely in the next slide. So just hold on. So these are some of the words that you should not be using in your headline at all. So earn, fantastic, friend, guarantee, junk, lowest price, additional income, billion, buy, cancel, certified, income, investment, loss. So these are words which will trigger off the spam filters and make your email end up in spam folder. So moving on. Okay, so when you send newsletter, is it advisable to declare it upfront in the subject line or use another smart one with context to spam promotion folder? It is okay to use it as a newsletter, absolutely not a problem. But instead of saying your February month newsletter, put out which is very bland, not interesting. So who wants to read a newsletter? You don't want to read a newsletter. Now, nor do I want a newsletter. I want to read the content of the newsletter if it's of value to me. So what is the most valuable information in your newsletter? Put that up into your subject line. So your newsletter may be talking about something, put that in your subject line and then lead on to the newsletter. And one more piece of advice which I have for all of y'all. When you send out email, I've seen a lot of people sending out email from an ID which is not a personal ID. They send out from info or newsletter at so and so or contact at so and so or help desk at so and so, service at so and so. Those are the common email IDs that a lot of people tend to use. That is a bad practice, and it's best to use a personal email ID to send out emails. Right? Because that's another way to bypass the spam filters. So if you send out, you can create a fake email ID called Sarabjit at xyz.com and send out all your emails through that email ID rather than having an email ID called info or contact. So moving on. Text or HTML. Now here is where it is for you, Amit. Text email outscores HTML emailer completely 110% hands down. There is no singular doubt as to why why email scores over HTML. Okay. Yes, like Rajesh Menon at digitalmarketing.com and not sales at digital marketing. Absolutely. Because that's one way to get away from spam filters. So we're coming back to text and HTML. Your sexy HTML design may not look good on all email client browsers. Remember, like I mentioned, every client browser will display your email design differently. So Gmail, Outlook, I showed you what happens when you send an HTML email design to me. All the images will get blocked. Lotus also blocked all the email. And if you are in the B2B business targeting mid-market enterprise and above, please remember 95% of the India uses Outlook in mid-market enterprises and above. So if you are targeting that segment, please remember nobody is seeing your images. So a lot of them block and your images, right? Unless your email is responsive, you won't show up well on mobile phones. Most of us, when we do our email campaign, we do not test it on mobile phones, on smartphones. We do not make it responsive. If your email design, HTML design is not responsive, it will not show up well on phones. And lastly, people accessing email on phones, reading a short text message with hyperlinks and scrolling down is more user-friendly than seeing a host of images. But the problem is that as human beings, we do not accept the fact that text is sexier, text works better than a great looking design. When you see a great looking design, we say wow. When you see a text, we don't say wow. We say okay, fair enough. Makran says, I have faced the same issue here. That is text, that is the formatting gets disturbed. How to avoid it? You can only avoid it by looking at the way your CSS is done on your HTML, which is a work which the developer has to do. The email guy who's HTMLization guy who's doing HTML, he has to check out the CSS options of all browsers. Now again, all email client management system softwares allow you to test out and see how your design, how your layout, how your HTML looks across different email client browsers. Again, I'm speaking from the function that my email campaign management software Netcore offers this. So I'm again 110 reasonably sure that bigger ones like Zoho and MailChimp will also be having that functionality. So I can actually test it out. If I'm sending out a design, I can actually test it out across maybe 15, 16 different email client browsers to see how it works. Remember, also one more thing, when it comes to B2B based email clients like Lotus Notes or Outlook or Outlook Express, even the version that you're using. So Outlook 10 will have a different look as opposed to Outlook 9. The browser will appear differently, the email will appear differently. So it's actually a lot of work which the HTML guy needs to do. So HTML is not only takes a lot more time, it actually takes far more effort to create a good design and make it compatible across all browsers. And the worst part is that it still delivers lower results than text, despite everything that you do. So text, short, small messages with a few hyperlinks work wonderfully well. And which is why you will notice that most of the B2B businesses or B2C businesses internationally only correspond to you with text. There is no design-based emailer which comes to you. So moving on, you need to have a good, clear call to action in terms of an email. What is it that you want the reader to do? Have a clear call to action in email message, whether it's to read something, visit a page, fill up a form, respond to the yes. What is it? It has to be very clearly mentioned, and you need to embed the CTA link across the message body copy. So it's not just at the last, right from the top in different spaces, it needs to be come up on the body copy. And at the same time, add a postscript with the CTA. And you need to track the CTA in your analytics. Coming to the email tracking, which is the last part that we need to cover. We need to look at stuff like open rates. Open rates are the number of people who open your email over the number of people to whom the email was sent to. Remember that the subject line is what influences open rates. So a good email campaign management software will allow you to do A/B testing of your subject lines. So you can A/B test your subject lines to understand which subject line gives you better open rates, and then do your entire mailing based on that subject line. Click-through rates is number of people who clicked on a link in your email over the number of people who opened it. In what influences your click-through rate is number one, your message content, your language, the degree of personalization, and your call to action, which influences your CTR. So you need to keep track of this. The bounce rate is number of emails that never opened or never got delivered. And that is a function of the quality of database that you're using. You also need to analyze it by device, which is how the data looking by device. People would have accessed it from smartphone. What kind of smartphone? Is there an insight you can get to it to understand when you are designing your email, for which device should you be designing this for? Time of access, what time are people usually opening it? This will give you a good indication as to when to broadcast your email. So if people are opening A good time to send out email typically in India is post 11:30 in the morning. That's a good time to send out email in India. But of course, this will vary if you're sending to B2B audiences or you're sending to B2C audience. And even with B2C audience, it depends whether you're sending to men or we're sending to women or to teenagers. So a lot depends on the audience you're targeting. So there is no one size fits all, as I mentioned. The last is unsubscribe rates. Are people unsubscribing? When people unsubscribe, you must have a feedback form asking them why they're unsubscribing. Again, that will give you an indication of the reasons why people are dropping out of your database. What should be an acceptable unsubscribe? What should be an acceptable unsubscribe rate? Zero. Zero is the only thing which is acceptable. Anything above zero is unacceptable. You need to understand why are they unsubscribing. People unsubscribe for many reasons. Primary of them being you either spamming them too much or they are really not finding your content useful. There are only these two reasons. So if they are spamming, you are spamming them too much, reduce it. Your unsubscribe rates will drop. If they're not of valuable content, talk to them, understand what is of value to them. Then they will unsubscribe. But acceptable level is zero. So that's what I meant in terms of if people are unsubscribing, it will give an insight of whether a content is being found valuable or not. So that brings us to the end of today's session. We'll take up questions. And in the next session, we're going to talk about website conversion techniques. So I have a question whether we can do this on Thursday this week. That is the 21st. So if everybody is okay, I'd like to do it on Thursday. Thanks, Vidula. All right, Vidula, I'll see you around. Thanks, Bhushan. Yes, I know it is free. So I presume nobody has any questions. Amit says, give a thought on conducting a session on MailChimp. Amit, I really may not be qualified to attend a session on MailChimp because I have not used that software to any great extent. I've used it very, very sparingly. So that's the problem. So I might not be fully equipped to do a session on how to. So essentially, I understand, as I understand, that you want to know how to use the tool more effectively. You will, if you go to MailChimp site itself, you'll find a lot of YouTube videos of how to use the product more better. Because as I said, I don't use MailChimp. I find it expensive because I have a large database with which I operate with. And the cost was of consideration to me, so I chose a cheaper solution which I could use. You're welcome, Amit. Maybe not now, maybe once I start using it and I get used to the system to understand what's, because I'm sure MailChimp has got far more functionalities than my particular email campaign management software has. So I would take a look at it when in due course, when I start looking at other tools. There's so many such tools actually, so really don't know which, every tool is good. At the end of the day, it's a tool. So how you use it is more important than the tool. So like in social media, you have Buffer, you have Social Sprout, you have Kissmetrics, you have so many such tools. But a tool is a tool at the end of the day. It's like Google AdWords. Google AdWords is a tool. It's how you use it which is important. And the fundamentals don't change whether you're using MailChimp or Zoho or Contact or Salesforce or Adobe. They're all tools at the end of the day. You press the right button, the right thing will happen. So I guess we'll close the session now and we will see everybody on coming Thursday. Thank you guys. Have a great week ahead. See you on Thursday. Bye.